Gender equality is a fundamental human right, and women's and girls' empowerment is essential for the well-being and the well-functioning of our societies. Unfortunately, gender inequality persists worldwide, depriving women and girls of their basic rights and opportunities. SDG 5 aims at achieving gender equality and empowerment for all women and girls. Gender inequality manifests itself in different ways, in the form of violence against women and girls, unequal economic empowerment and skills development, inequality in leadership. Let me give you a few figures related to gender inequality. It is 1 in 5 women and girls aged 15 to 49 who reported experiencing physical and/or sexual violence by an intimate partner within a 12-month period. In the most extreme cases, such violence can lead to death. Globally, over 750 million women and girls alive today were married before their 18th birthday. At least 200 million girls and women worldwide have undergone female genital mutilations. Men are more likely than women to obtain stable employment and find formal work. The average of time spent on unpaid domestic and care work is more than 3-fold higher for women than men. Only 22.8% of all national parliamentarians were women as of June 2016, a slow increase from 11.3% in 1995. At this current pace, it will take another 40 years to reach equal representation. Women are still underrepresented in managerial positions. Less than a third of senior and middle management positions are held by women. In the least developed countries, barely 60% of girls complete primary school and just 30% enroll in secondary school. To fight gender inequality, 6 targets have been defined. And all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere. Eliminate all forms of violence against all women and girls, including trafficking and sexual and other types of exploitation. Eliminate all harmful practices such as child, early or forced marriages and female genital mutilations. Recognize and value unpaid care and domestic work. Ensure women's full and effective participation and equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of decision-making in political, economic, and public life. And ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights. Empowering women and girls and achieving gender equality requires the concerted effort of all stakeholders, including business. As the engine of 90% of jobs, technological innovation, capital creation and investment, responsible business is critical to the advancement of women's and girls' empowerment around the world. Here are some examples of what business can do. The business can assure sufficient participation of women in decision-making and governance at all levels across all business areas. The business can pay equal remuneration, including benefits for work and equal value. Support access to child and dependent care by providing services, resources, and information to both women and men. Establish a zero-tolerance policy towards all forms of violence at work, including verbal and/or physical abuses, and prevent sexual harassment. It is a great pleasure to have with us Christine Nashberger, professor at Audencia Business School in France, to talk about the SDG 5 and gender equality. Christine, welcome. So Christine, you are a professor of management and human resources. You have worked quite extensively on questions around diversity and equality, disability, and also LGBT. Building from your wealth of research and knowledge and experience on those topics, could you tell us why do we need today an SDG and gender equality?
First of all, Celine, let me thank you for this invitation. I'm very happy to share my experience with you and of course also with the audience. Why do we need an SDG gender focus? I would say the answer is very simple, because in many areas of our daily life, women are still struggling and they're facing problems. For example, women are underrepresented in media. Women have difficulties to achieve, for example, also work-life balance. Women's voices are often not heard. Women are facing domestic violence. Women are often also, they have more difficulties, for example, also to access healthcare. So the list can be very long. And I think today it's really urgent, in fact, to make progress in many areas. And today's decision makers, they should really be aware of all these difficulties. And so the SDG 5 is really there to achieve gender equality and to empower all women and girls.
Thank you. So if we look at gender equality at the workplace, where do we find gender inequality and how does it manifest itself?
Gender inequality in the workplace is in fact we can observe it in many different areas. For example, if we take what we call the employee experience, it's starting from if someone is joining an organization, so the recruitment process, until the end. So, for example, if you are laid off or if you are deciding to leave, in fact, an organization. So, for example, women, when they are in a job interview, they often face illegal questions. For example, if you don't have any children, the recruiter may ask you, are you intending to have a family, and so on. Women are also facing the famous glass ceiling, or we call it also the labyrinth of leadership, to access, in fact, leadership roles in organizations. Women are also facing sexual harassment in the workplace. Sexism is also ambivalent in many workplaces. Pay, of course, there is still this gender pay gap for the same positions. Here again, the list can also be very long. So there are many things that should be undertaken.
So it addresses, we see gender inequality in different areas, in the structure, in the pay, in the leadership positions. So but what actually do companies to address those concerns, if they do anything? So what are they actually doing?
It's very much depending on the size of an organization, but also on the industry. For example, a big company like Accenture, they have implemented a mentoring program for women already more than 10 years ago. And this program shows really very positive results nowadays. So it's much easier nowadays for women to get leadership positions inside Accenture. Another example would also be the NEGO training that had been put into place in our business school. NEGO training meaning negotiation, so it's helping women to negotiate, in fact, their salary because of this existing gender pay gap. Another example is also a company called Manitou Group. So they have implemented a women's network a couple of years ago. At the beginning, it was very restrictive, so only women could be part of this network. But then they have also extended it, and now it's open for men and for women. So networking is really a very important part, and this brings me also to one of my main research results, which shows that women have often more difficulties to network, already because of the word work that is in networking. And I also found out that it is, that women are also networking in a less strategic way than men. What I'm trying to say is that men are focused and career-oriented when they are networking. And for women, there is more the social dimension. So they really would like to exchange with other women. Okay, how do you organize your day? So it's much also about, let's say, work-life balance. And another example also of one of my research is that we often believe that only women are concerned with work-life balance. But I found out in a very particular study that also men are concerned. So there is really this concern not only for women, but also for men. Because we always think in terms of career that is all about work-life balance as well. And of course, there is a question of the sector as well. In more male-dominated areas, like, for example, the construction industry, it's much more difficult also for women, in fact, to advance and to achieve equality.
So we see that companies are doing many initiatives, but actually what additional help need companies to achieve gender equality?
I would say the legal framework, because of course, women and men, of course, need to be protected. There is this so-called motherhood penalty, so women are often discriminated because of pregnancy. And the other thing is as well to encourage companies to put into place voluntary actions. So for example, companies can have a label. So one of the labels would be the CSR label Lucie. There can be also another label like Great Place to Work. So it's really to have a distinction that may be part of employer branding or other certificates. So it really what makes you unique and how you can attract finally and retain, of course, female talents.
Mm-hmm. So some incentives and some ways to recognize what is being done. So how do you see it evolve in the coming years? Is it going to change?
That's really a good question. I think there are really three main issues. I think there should be really a change in organizational cultures, because still many organizations are run by men for men. And also in many organizations we have this 24/7 work culture, meaning that you should be performing all the time, and this is of course very difficult to get really work-life balance. So there should be a development of organizational cultures. The second thing are really also gendered stereotypes and also roles in our society. So from the early beginning on, children are really they acquire stereotypes. And then we are trapped in these gendered roles, and often we interiorize them as well, so we feel it's natural. Women go more into communication, into HR, and so on. And the last thing, I think, which is also very important, is really this elimination of the pay gap, because I think it's not normal in 2018 to get less money, if you are a woman for the same job. So this is really something we should fix.
Maybe to close our discussion, why actually students should care about gender diversity? Why is it important for them?
Because, in fact, today's students are tomorrow's decision makers, and they are going out and they are shaping, of course, organizational cultures. They are the CEOs, of the future. So I think they need to have this awareness that there is still some progress to make. And we are all, I think, also responsible for gender equality, and we are all the winners, if we have a more equal world. So, for example, men would probably also struggle less in terms of work-life balance, or they will also perceive less stress because they are not the only, breadwinner. Men could also take some more time off, so they won't be stereotyped also if they do so. And of course, men, on the other side, they should also share power, because if women are accessing leadership positions, that's also something we need to take into account. So I would really say everyone should benefit, and everyone has an important role to play. So SDG 5 should really become true one day if we are all into gender equality, and we should really foster this.
Christine, thank you very much for sharing insights with us on SDG 5. Thank you.
Thank you for having invited me.